It's recording.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Um, Ted, I guess you're another person from Purdue. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us your knowledge of Power BI?
Yeah, I'm the Purdue Win Managing Director for the Win Project. I have no background whatsoever in Power BI and just interested in the engagement piece here and as you guys are forming this Power BI user group, just interested in how companies are going to engage with it and how they're going to use it. So I have no background and no familiarity with it, but just tuning in today to learn more about it. So
Okay, well, welcome to club. You're in the right place then. Okay, Tom, since you're our guest presenter, I'll let you introduce yourself and then go around the horn to the other people on the phone. Tom
Okay,
Cunningham.
my name's Tom Cunningham. I work with Evonik Industries at Tippecanoe Laboratories, and I'm the manager for business process improvement, which is the European description for continuous improvement. Um, so what's neat about the business process improvement moniker is I seem to get a lot more receptiveness and cooperation as I try to get in and transition our communication medium into a digitalized visual management system. So in this role, I've had a lot of fun trying to justify various types of software solutions. So we compared Tableau to Power BI. And since we were already a Microsoft company, we went we basically followed the path of least resistance. So we maybe don't have the best tool, but what we do have is a very flexible tool that is very accommodating to our needs. And so what I'll present here later on is a little bit of how we've done that, how we got started, and show you some examples of what we're doing today. So I'm by training a chemical engineer. I've worked at Tippecanoe Laboratories since 2001, and one of the neat things that I get to do in this role is I hire a lot of Ivy Tech and Purdue students for various types of projects. So getting what we call the business intelligence team started that's staffed with only Purdue, mainly Purdue and some Ivy Tech people is really to evaluate the business cases for solutions like Power BI and really the whole Microsoft Power Platform. So today we're just going to talk about Power BI, but if anyone has questions offline about the Power Platform, feel free to talk with me. We've created some apps ourselves and are still early, maybe somewhere between novice and experienced on some of these things, but we have had more success than failure. And so I can encourage people and try to help give the path forward in terms of what might make your projects successful. So happy to be involved. But yeah, even though I'm labeled as an expert, I really am an expert in trying to justify why Power BI is needed from a business use case perspective. And I'm only just now getting into the deep development using DAX and things of that nature. So, but I really think most people are in that, they fall into that population. And so that's what today's presentation is geared for, is to scratch the surface, create some curiosity, and show you how that inquisitiveness can be rewarding when you start capturing the data into Power BI and generating insights. So that's my
Okay, well,
intro.
oh, thanks, Tom. Glad to have you on board and appreciate your support. So now I'm going to go through by company. So I think we have several people from Brown Ability on board. So maybe Stephen Summers, are you on? Do you want to start the presentation or your introduction?
Sure. My name's Steve Summers. I'm the director of IT for our North American manufacturing. I am actually probably at the level 5. I am the senior manager that I'm helping build that strategy with the other executives here so that we can actually push Power BI out across our entire enterprise. I also work directly with Microsoft on all the licensing.
Okay, thank you. And Chris Hartman, are you online?
Yes, I'm online. I'm Chris Hartman. I'm in the business intelligence group. I focus on the data integration to Snowflake and connecting it to Power BI. I would say I'm in the novice area of it.
Okay, great. And I think Tracy Montgomery, are you online?
Yes, I am. Tracy Montgomery, also work at Brawnability, work quite a bit with Chris. I am a data scientist, I believe is what they're calling me these days.
Okay.
I'm working very hard. I'm spending every day right now in Power BI working with our retail units to get a lot of reports available for them so that they can run their business. Right now, I'd say I've hit the experienced user. And if I ever have a day that I don't learn something new in Power BI, I might start calling myself a power user.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll be able to share some of your experience in the future meetings and some of the use cases. So I appreciate that. So is there Nick Rogers from Vulnerability online? I'm not sure if he accepted, but okay. If not, anyone else from Vulnerability that I missed? J Lo, I guess, is another person that was on the list. Okay. Next, I'm not sure from Dana, did Tim Penning sign in? He was optional, so maybe not. Mike Gulbertson, I think you're on the phone on the road, so you've already said that you're kind of a novice user. Is that correct? Maybe he can't answer since he's on the road. Tom Cunningham, you already, how about from Ebonics? We got Diane Cather.
We have Brad Beach on the phone, and,
Okay,
and Brad is actually, the neat thing about Brad is he's actually the person that was our biggest use case person. So, and he's far along. I'd say he's definitely experienced on his way to being power user. Brad,
Okay.
could you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I'm Brad Beach. I work at Evonik with Tom. I'm a plant engineering manager, and I definitely experienced user. I don't know if I can call myself a power user, but I think I understand the potential of Power BI very well, and you can try to tell me we can't do something and I'll tell you how we're going to do it. So,
Okay.
yeah, but I mean, I built everything from, we're using Power BI to monitor maintenance spend. We're using it to build, metrics with maintenance data that are much more fit for purpose than I think what we've been able to do in the past. We're also using Power BI to connect to our data historian and create little maintenance scheduling tools that use data from the data historian. And yeah, I think I really like this self-service business intelligence, and then also looking if anybody wants to work on something together. I say let's do it. Give me a call. I do have to drop off early, so around 4 o'clock, but
Okay,
or
all right.
3:45 actually. But thanks for having me.
Okay, Brad, thanks. Okay, how about Doug Mansfield? I think you're on the line.
Yes, I am. When I unmuted, Doug Mansfield, I'm the president of manufacturing for Kirby Risk. And we've done a little with BI, and I have the result of some reports, so that's good. But if all the Purdue guys are novices, I'll be a senior manager then.
Okay. Yeah, so you're the recipient of the reports and dashboards, I assume.
Correct. Many times myself and the plant managers are the ones that request the information in certain fashion, certain ways, slice and dice all the data so that we can have better reports that give us the information we need without digging through 17 Excel files to try to figure out what we want to know.
Okay,
So
good.
I was going to have our IT guy here, but he's committed in another meeting. So
Okay.
he'll be here next time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next on the list is Bob Beerwagen. I think you're on the line from MPI. Hey, Bob, are you on mute? Yeah. Okay, Bob, if you there, if not, maybe you had to drop off. So how about I think
No, I'm still
okay,
here, Roy. Sorry,
okay,
I thought it didn't unmute. There we go.
okay.
Yeah, Bob Beerwagen, VP of Digital Strategy for MPI Corporation. We're a group of manufacturing companies in primarily automotive and construction products, steel stamping and distribution and heat treating. I'm somewhere between 3 and 4 in terms of experience, and then I'm also the evangelist for Power BI around our enterprise, so that makes me a 5 as well.
Okay.
And I say somewhere between 3 and 4 because I do DAX development at times. We are using this pretty heavily, not just with our ERP for dashboards, but actually have started to use it to visualize some of the data that we're generating from our IoT efforts that we've had underway for a while. We use both the desktop versions and the Power BI Pro versions. We've been an Office 365 user for years, so it was very natural progression for us to move into Power BI. And we're also actually starting to scratch the ground a little bit with machine learning and artificial intelligence in Azure as well.
Okay, great. All right. Well, you're going to be one of the experts we'll draw on in later meetings. So great. Bryce from Standard Industrial, are you in line?
I am. And we are non-experienced with Power BI. I am an Excel guy to a fault, but we have had a third-party programmer do .NET type stuff for us here for years that we are in the process of trying to find trying to hire a data analyst and bring that process in-house. We're having too many projects, and this gentleman, this third party, is not able to keep up, and what we're paying him could more than pay for an in-house person. So whether it's probably not great that I'm as the top guy, I'm the Power BI master. Jenny Prado's on with us. She's in charge of our accounting, and she's really curious in this because there's a lot she'd want to see as well. So, yep.
So will you be like a number 5, a senior manager, a user of the system, and a recipient?
I would say yes. And then Jenny would probably she'd like to be a power user. She's more hands-on, and in her position, I think she would, but we really need as a company, somebody who would take the lead on this.
Okay. So Jenny, did you say Jenny, if you're on the line, you want to go ahead and quickly introduce yourself?
I'm Jenny Prado. I'm with Standard Industrial, like Bryce said. I'm the director of accounting. I am new to Power BI, but I really want to learn because I've seen the capabilities, and I think it's similar to Excel where I'll be able to catch on fairly fast. So.
Sure. Okay, glad to have you on board. All right, so let's go to Wabash. I've got several people on Wabash. How about Baird? Are you on?
Yes, sir. Baird Chipley with Wabash. I am a material handling engineer under the AME group. And actually, one of my other coworkers, Kurt Knotts, is on this. I would consider myself new, but then I'm not quite a senior manager, but interested in the capabilities. And I've seen some of the reports and stuff that we've generated so far with Power BI. And we're working on a project to essentially see if Power BI can help us with a plan for every part.
Okay. All right. Kurt, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kurt Knotts. I'm a SAP business analyst, currently working for Baird. I would say I'm maybe in between novice and experience. I've done a few. So like Baird said, we're looking at using it for a PFIP. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. All right. How about Matt Blair? Are you on from Wabash?
Yeah, Kurt, I'm interested in what you guys are working on over there. We're working in UPS OS right now, and that's one of the things we actually recently discussed. But nonetheless, I'm our director of business systems for Upfit Parts and Service Group. I'm probably new or a novice to Power BI, even though we have a lot of projects going that have a strong reporting impact. So hopefully soon to be senior manager related to how that reporting is consumed and understanding its capabilities.
Okay, thanks. Tyler, are you on the phone, on the line from Wabash?
I am, yep. Tyler Minikus. I work at Wabash National as a IT support analyst. I support our end users and anyone that has any issues. I do have some knowledge of Power BI. I've seen more or less the dashboards and things like that, but really nothing more than that. So I would say I'm a novice.
Okay, good. Rael from Wabash.
Hi, yeah, Rael Sheets. I'm with our Lean Enterprise Specialist. I work with our Lean group, and we've been spending a lot of time on reports. And would say I'm a novice. I can look at reports that already exist in Power BI and manipulate them, but I can't create my own yet. I would like to eventually be able to make my own, I guess, to become an experienced user.
Okay, thank you. Is it Ratchet from Wabash? Is that correct?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I'm Rachit Bhatna. I'm with Wabash as well. I'm a lean enterprise specialist as Rael. So I would consider myself somewhere between novice and experienced user. I've created a few dashboards. Currently, I'm trying to improve my skills in DAX. And so, yeah, I think we at Wabash are on a great journey towards including Power BI a lot more. So,
okay, good. Mark Muth, are you on from Wabash?
I am Mark Munz, Wabash. I manage the CRM Salesforce solution here for Matt Blair's team, UPS OS. Fairly new to Wabash, and been working with Salesforce for the better part of a decade. Even though I do Salesforce is kind of my bread and butter and kind of my niche, I'm definitely, when it comes to CRM, definitely kind of brand agnostic. And I've seen CRM work very successfully in other companies as well as other companies that I've worked in. So I'm looking forward. I'm definitely a new person to Power BI. So I'm interested in kind of seeing how this solution works and seeing some use cases. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, great. How about Thomas Hetzel from Wabash? Are you on the phone?
Yes, my name's Thomas Hetzel. I work for Wabash National for 22 years. And I've been through all the different organizations. I think I've been in every organization at one point in time. My current position is Senior Manager of Finance. I'm also a Purdue graduate. Power BI knowledge is, I'm a 4 and probably a 5 as well,
okay,
as manager of it. But interesting to see what other companies are using. I think you mentioned other opportunities, like Tom Cunningham mentioned other choices. We actually looked at several choices, but we migrated up from Excel to Power Pivot, and when Power BI was available, we got it pretty soon. And we've been doing a lot of development at Wabash on this. Several of these people on here, I've trained some of them.
Okay, good. or if we need the expert advice, we'll look out to you. Okay, thanks, Thomas. I think we got one just signed in is Joe Nash from Lafayette Venetian. You want to introduce yourself, Joe?
Yeah, Joe Nash, Lafayette Venetian Blinds. Title is Director of New Operations. Don't really know anything about Power BI. I assume it's something fairly similar to Minitab. I'm extremely versatile in Excel. So I'm just getting on here just to learn about it.
Okay, well, I think you're right background for it because it's kind of a Excel on steroids, I think. So did I miss anyone going through the list? Is there anyone else on the call that we didn't introduce? Okay, good. That was great. I appreciate all the introductions and the variety of backgrounds. I think it's obviously more on the new to novice level versus the experts, but we've got a variety of people and different experiences. So that's helpful. So now let me quickly kind of cover the overall objectives. And I think the idea here is to create this forum to be able to help companies use Power BI to create visualizations of business data to make smart decisions faster. So I think you've already, explained some examples of that. And if we can, over the period of meetings, have different companies share examples, that would be helpful to get different points of view. The one thing I'd caution, because this is kind of open to anyone, that I would suggest that you don't share any confidential information or proprietary information, but I think most cases you can share use cases that are kind of more vanilla. And then also we hope for these new users to be able to provide a training resource, not only for training material, but also just observing what other people are doing as a form of co-learning. Later on, Tom will talk about a user group blog that we've set up that you can join, so that in between meetings, you can post questions, share information, tips and tricks, post success stories, again, to kind of build the excitement and camaraderie of the group. So any questions about the overall objectives of the group? Okay. So I think we've already kind of touched on this. Basically, I think we can take new users that are just interested in learning, share with experienced people that have successfully implemented Power BI, as well as business leaders that are consumers of the information of Power BI. So I think it's a good user group that we can kind of all work together and share information. So now at this point, I'm going to turn control over to Tom, who's the expert presenter today, and let him take control, and I'll stop my presentation and he can take over. Tom, go ahead and kick in. And
Okay, thank you, Roy. All right, so very, very happy to hear several of the participants are very far along in adopting Power BI, and also that there are people who are just very interested and want to get started. So since this is our initial discussion on the topic, what we did today was we geared the presentation to be amenable to the people who want to know what is BI, how do I get started, and show me some of the value. I don't want to abandon my Excel spreadsheets that I've perfected over the years. If you fall into that group, then you're perfect for Power BI, because what you'll find is, Roy said Excel on steroids. I think what you'll find is Power BI enables better insights. It's smart enough to recognize the format of your data, and so it saves you a lot of that menial manual effort that you spent in Excel. And if you're somebody like myself who actually did a lot of VBA programming to get your Excel to work, then then I think you'll really enjoy BI. So little tech check here. What are you seeing? Is my screen being presented?
We're seeing Roy's screen, I think.
Thanks, Bob. So from my perspective, the icon says to stop sharing. I think what I'm just going to do is stop sharing and try to reconnect, and we'll see what happens. We, as plan B, Roy, we can run through the slides, and then at the end, I can go with a live walkthrough of our Power BI sheets. I think maybe, in fact, that might be the best use of people's time. We'll go through the presentation. If you're not seeing my screen now, then I think we should switch to Roy. We'll finish all the slides in the presentation, and then at the end, spend a couple of minutes trying to troubleshoot why you can't see my screen.
We see your screen, but your Zoom was up in the middle of it. If you hid your Zoom, then we would be able to see your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, are you seeing the presentation now?
We see your
No, because you're not. Yeah, you're not sharing right now. I
No.
don't think.
Yeah, this is.
I think whoever the host is, he has disabled screen sharing. So if you, because mine says you can't really share, the host has disabled it. So that might be something that's wrong.
Roy, would you take over? Let's go through the slides and fix this later. Okay. Okay, everyone see the 1, 2, 3 slide? I'll try to get moving here. Okay.
Yes.
So really what we're trying to do here is make sure that we have access to our data, we have control. So in the past, if you wanted an IT reporting solution, you had to come up with some requirements, go all the way through the steps that it takes to extract, transform, and load the data, and then come up with report strategies and get things basically constructed and issued. Nowadays, if you are of the inclination and you have the connection capability, you can go either to Excel files or databases or SharePoint lists and start creating your own data lake from which you can generate most of the visual representations of your, whether it be production schedule, production rates, quality information, safety performance information, training information, any kind of schedule, any kind of performance metric. You can pull it into BI, and if you're leveraging teams, these BI dashboards can be prevalent throughout the organization. And one of the things we're trying to do right now is remove some of the barriers that our IT folks have generated so that we can get some kiosks out in the manufacturing area. So a couple of years ago, I took a tour of Caterpillar, and Doug Mansfield walked us through Kirby Risk, and we saw some very good lean implementations. And one of the things we liked was a lot of the visualizations. They had these, boards around which they would do their huddles. And a lot of those boards were populated in a manual fashion. So one of our goals is to come up with those types of boards, but in the form of a kiosk, so that the extraction, the transformation, and the loading is all automated, and our people are really focused on talking about the information that these ETLs generate, so that we can get some knowledge out there and provide real-time insights and in terms of actual performance with respect to KPIs. So one of the things we want to do is get through the collection, should we say, of software, services, apps, connectors that really can help you get those visual insights in an automated way, because really all Power BI is great in terms of importing data and remembering your rules as to how you validate that data and generate the transformations. And so we have basically this real-time insights as our goal. And so I think everyone on the call, if I had to summarize why we wanted to do this particular presentation, is we really want to push out there that the real-time insight goal is not only achievable, but it's achievable without IT to an extent. But once you start getting into corporate-wide applications, you have to recognize at some point that it is worth getting the professionals involved. But at the same time, by creating your own versions of the visual representations of your data, you basically are capturing your user requirements, so that if a local app becomes a corporate app, it's very easy transition because all of your requirements have basically been recorded by the tool. So one of the things, how are we doing? So 3:45. So I have what I would suggest is that we make this presentation available to everyone on the call, and remind people that I put a couple of links in here. There's a video intro link. I don't think it's necessary for this particular call, but there's a link that says what is Power BI. It's a little 3 or 4 minute video, and it does a good job of explaining how this application adds value. And then next is, if you're if you're trying to get started, you may be a company that doesn't have a very large IT department, and so it can be difficult to work your way through getting access, making sure that you've got a corporate license. And there's a link in here also that describes basically the 3 levels of licensing. There's always a free level, and that's where anybody can do any visualization for themselves. There's, as we heard mentioned on the call a little while ago, there are Power BI Pro licenses. So if I want to be able to make site-wide presentations, then I can use a Power BI Pro license, which costs about $10 a month, and I can publish my dashboards throughout the company. If I really am intense user of BI, then there is a much more expensive version of the licensing that is available, but that's really for that population of people that are basically either IT experts, or they're running their own company generating revenues from being a BI publisher. So this slide, basically, if you just look at what's happening here, we're really just today talking about Power BI business analytics. Later on, if in future meetings, we can show how Power Apps, Power Automate really can enhance your ability to automate the extraction, transformation, and loading of the data to really make at that point an application that's an interactive, for me, dashboard. And so this is what I think got us really excited at Evonik, was the ability not only to be able to do that, but to be able to do that quickly and easily. And so again, the bottom line on that one is Power BI for modeling, analysis, and surface to bring insights to surface, right? There's information hidden in the data, but then also, and so that's from an analytics perspective. And it's what I really liked about some of the introductions is there are people out there on this, listening to this call, who are already beyond just pushing schedules and KPIs, and they're driving analytics. And so I think this is the goal all of us have. And one of the things we wanted to be able to do by creating this group is create support for one another as each of us try to complete that journey from our own starting points and at our own paces. And so for some, this will be quick. For some, it won't be as quick. But by creating, later on, we'll talk about, we have created a user group at the Microsoft website. And so we hope to be able to leverage some communication there and links from that website to a library that we're creating for this group in particular, so that we can make sure that you've got if it's information around use cases to get these insights to surface. We want to be able to share some of our successes so that you can replicate them quickly without having to start from scratch to figure out how to do it. Next slide, please.
Hey, Tom, can I make a quick comment?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bob Beerwagon. For those of you that are new or just getting started on this, if you download the free version of Power BI Desktop, one of the best things Microsoft has done with this is the tutorials and the videos that are available in that, because they will really give you a pretty good overview, plus take you on a step-by-step basis as to how to start to develop dashboards and add functionality as you go. I think that's probably as strong a set of videos as I've seen Microsoft make on anything. And I can tell you it will help guide you very quickly and get you up to speed on a lot of things that you might otherwise kind of struggle with.
Thank you, Bob. Yep, very, you'll see a screenshot of what Bob just described, and it's very impressive in terms of what Microsoft has done to make the tool smart, so that you can get started with analysis quickly. So we've got a slide on that coming up here shortly, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But so for us, most of us are going to be Power BI free users, or the goal here is, with this group, is to support the Power BI Pro users. So we don't have the professional and in-depth expert knowledge that it takes to tell you how to leverage Power BI Premium. I don't pretend to be that smart, but I am very driven, focused, and excited to try to help as many people become Power BI Pro experts as possible. And so that's our goal today, is to make sure that you understand what it takes to be able to do that. Next slide, please. And so one of the things that happens internally is, after the initial infatuation with how easy it is to create your own dashboards, and quickly you want to be able to share them. Quickly people want you to share them. And if you're a lean site, then you know the value of visual management. And what this slide is about is just trying to say, it's great that you can get started fast, but sometimes you can get started too fast, or grow too fast, or the wrong people that were supporting the dashboards are no longer in the same role. And so you need some sort of infrastructure, some sort of plan where you're able to answer these questions. So as you get going with Power BI, if you're not a Power BI Pro person pushing information out to multiple users, these aren't so critical. But once you cross that threshold, you install a gateway, you make your BI dashboards available 24/7. At that point, you really should have a strategy about, who do we have available to help with questions on the information and use of the dashboards that are being pulled forward. Similarly, if you're trying to create Power BI Pro users from within your own organization, who can they contact for help? So with that second question, that's what this group is about. We want to create that support group that helps people get through how to deal with what can be frustrating DAX issues when you're dealing with various date formats and permutations of how to transform your raw data into insights. Also, where to find training. We've got some information on that in the presentation. Lots of good options there, most of which are free. So who would take care of an app or dashboard if the developer leaves? If you do a good job in the sharing of the data, then the daily discussions around the extraction, transformation, and loading don't have to be very detailed, as long as the file is still available after that person leaves, because all of the requirements are captured by Power BI. So if I have an Excel spreadsheet that's a mess and the person leaves, all of the all of the validation is what Power BI calls it. That gets recorded. And so as long as you're updating that master spreadsheet and not changing the number of columns or number of tables, even for that matter, you'll find that Power BI is fairly robust and either won't break or is easy enough to learn that you'll be able to figure out how to repair it if it does break, as long as you understand the basic concepts of tables and relationships between the tables being one-to-one, one-to-many, that type of thing. And then also, sometimes companies struggle with what do they want to post, because if it's at the front desk where anyone walking off the street would see it, that's maybe a different data set than what you want to show in your laboratory or in your shipping warehouse, or maybe in an area where upper management is reviewing performance metrics. And then, here's the one: the app became very critical for my business. So that's our goal, right? Is we want to generate insights, and these insights will be somewhat exciting and potentially addictive. And so if you grow too fast and you're dependent on one person who developed it, you got to ask as a team at your site, try to figure out as a performance management type goal, who are the people that you want to put through this training and have them supporting the visualization of your performance data. And then also, where can I find other developers and can see what they have done? That's what this group is. We want to be that group for you. We want to be able to point you to our Microsoft user group website, point you to the global Microsoft chat, which is very good at evaluating user questions and providing good information. But we also looked at the user group website that Microsoft provides. It doesn't provide a library for us to store files. And so the gentleman, Mr. Dunlop, Mr. McLeod, and Roy have come up with a solution for us. And so we have been able to create an electronic library so that as people join our Central Indiana Power BI user group, we get their email information and then we give them access to our library. So you'll see some of those details here later in the instruction, in the presentation. Okay, so I don't want to get into the details here, but an extension of the conversation we just had was, hold off on the clicks and we'll catch up here in a second, is this first visual on the left. Depending upon the size of your company, it sounds to me like in our intro, we have all three. So try to make sure that within your organization, there's some clear oversight with respect to what is IT responsible for? How much is IT involved, or are they just getting the licenses? Now, if you're a Power BI Pro user, which means you want to publish your dashboard to multiple other users, that's the threshold that gets you from free to Power BI Pro. If your computer's not operating 24/7, then in order to make your dashboards visible 24/7, you'll need to install a gateway. And a gateway is a topic that we can cover offline. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, anyone new to Power BI, you don't need to know what a gateway is or how to install it, but you just need to know today that if you're going to push your dashboard out into the organization, especially to help those people on the floor to see performance metrics, whether it's safety, quality, or just schedule. Once your computer goes down, they can't see anything unless you're pushing the information to them through a gateway. And so as you and your organization even potentially evolve as Power BI Lite users to
Hi, how are you?
developers, then
Good.
Then you would potentially benefit.
Another meeting.
Hi, Steve. Hey, Steve, if you could mute, please. There is a fantastic link here So Microsoft, and it's been several years, they haven't updated it, but they put out in 2016 a fantastic white paper that helps organizations as they're trying to absorb what are all the permutations and possibilities associated with my implementation. So these delivery approaches, they've got I've provided a link to a white paper that they wrote that is really fantastic in helping you understand what it is with respect to this gateway that I just mentioned that you would need to do. And then also other options with respect to accessing data, protecting data, validating users, and things of this nature. So that is a interesting reference that I think people would benefit from. So we included the link to that here in the presentation. I won't go to it. And then if you could click again, Roy. So what we have here is a typical representation of what a Power BI Pro user is going to be doing. They've got a data source, it could be anything. Power BI makes it easy for you to connect to hundreds of data sources via connectors. So it doesn't have to be Excel, it doesn't have to be a CSV file. What you'll find is if you want to leverage the power of the Microsoft Power Platform and create your own little data lakes, you'll become interested in storing your tables rather than in Excel. You'll want to start storing your tables in SharePoint lists, or if you're advanced like Bob and a couple of these other sites, they will potentially start pushing their tables onto servers and create their own data warehouse. So what's neat is Power BI doesn't care. It's gonna be the same front end visualization to the Power BI Pro user, irrespective of what data source you're connecting to or how many data sources you're connecting to. So that's what's fantastic for the user. It's basically scalable from an IT perspective from 0 to 100 very quickly. So on this visualization, you see this on-premise data gateway. So really the only thing you need to understand about that is if your computer's off, you're the Power BI Pro user who's generating the analysis and you want others to see it 24/7, for example, via either a web page, a SharePoint site, or a team site. In order for that to be available when your computer is off, you'll need to establish a gateway. And so this white paper provides a lot of information about why and how to do that. So we've got our Power BI desktop. So the neat thing that's happening here is we've got reports, we've got dashboards, and depending upon the amount of information you want to provide, these can be multiple page reports or they can be single page dashboards. And the amount of drilling down or rolling up is completely flexible. And I'm very impressed with how easy it is to provide that information. So I've got a dry run on we just installed a manufacturing execution system on the plant site. And some of our best Power BI reports are on that system. So I'll take a few minutes here later in the presentation to show you what we've done there. And so that's kind of a segue into the reason for this presentation too is best practices and neat tricks on not only leveraging the existing visualizations within the Power BI tool, but some of the visualizations can be custom, and sharing how that is done is one of our goals in terms of just being able to create the forum for that type of sharing to occur. Now, the last box over here that's popped up on the bottom right is another white paper. And this one really talks in more detail from an IT perspective of what it takes to set up some boundaries and provide the casual user with an understanding of what constraints can be out there and why they exist. So again, I don't want to dive into those details, but I do want to push it out there so that anybody who's interested doesn't have to go looking for it, because these weren't easy to find, at least from my perspective. So captured them for posterity here. Okay, so back to Bob's comment. So it's the first thing that happens when you turn on Power BI is this splash screen comes up. Now, you have the option to not show it anymore. Please don't check that box because this is golden here. So what Bob said is exactly what we wanted everyone to understand. if you think Power BI is a useful tool, you're right, it is. The only reason it can't be useful is if you don't have the time to invest what it would take to get your particular extraction, transformation, and dashboard created. And so I think of that like in chemistry for chemical reactions, there's this activation energy. How much energy do you have to provide in order just to even get started? And this is where when we looked at Tableau compared to Power BI, we actually gave the thumbs up to Power BI. The casual user, the non-IT person, the person who's good with Excel and maybe doesn't do any VBA, but they at least understand how to do the formulas and have nested formulas. If you're in that population, then everything you need for Power BI is actually right here. You can get started by connecting to your data, but more importantly for initial users or people who have never used the tool before, literally you just go in, you open the tool and you watch the videos. So the first video, Getting Started, is a fantastic orientation video. Like for example, the gentleman at Venetian Blinds, he's not used Power BI, he's interested, he wants to know what's going on there. If he doesn't have the free license, these same videos are available on YouTube, and basically you just go to YouTube and query the Power BI intro or some variant thereof. And you'll find that there are more than enough videos out there ranging from 2 minutes to 6 hours where people are willing to give you their approach towards being able to accomplish some pretty neat things with Power BI. So there's the initial introduction video. There's multiple videos presented that start to give you the idea of if you've got your data, then all you really need to do is connect to it and start building the reports. So they show you how to hit the ground running with these videos. And then sooner or later, you're going to end up where Bob is, where he's starting to get in and manipulate the transformation more precisely using DAX. So if you're an Excel power user, you're a VBA programmer. If you're a Power BI power user, you're a DAX person. And they're very similar. DAX is a little bit more of a hybrid between the VBA or the built-in formulas within Excel, the VBA in Excel, and it's really just a different format. And we've got in our library a full DAX reference document. I think it's well over 100 pages. And so that's great. Not something you want to print out because that's not the type of thing you read from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. You just open that up and you hit Control F and you find the solution to the one particular issue that's keeping you from being able to generate the one visualization that you want today. And what we found is when people approach it that way and they don't feel like they have to go through a series of training courses to become certified before they ever get started, all of these resources are geared to basically get you to that first visualization immediately, so you don't have to go through some sort of certification process before you create your first visualizations. And so very impressive with respect to the ease with which you're able to start consuming this training material and generating your own visualizations. Similarly, what's happening here? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. One more click, please. And so what we've got over here then are the tutorials. The tutorials are fantastic. What happens is there are some videos out there that say how to do a dashboard in an hour, and then there's more complex dashboards, shows you how to do a dashboard in a day. And then as you progress out of Power BI and into the Power Platform, you get the Power Apps and Power Automate, and they give you step-by-step instructional videos on how to create your own app in a day. And then what happens is, the output from the transactions that occur in the apps are made visually apparent everywhere and published via Power BI. So it's a really nice suite of applications that they're putting out here. They call it low code, no code for a reason. It's really smart. All you have to do, you don't have to code so much as you just need to configure. And all of these videos help you understand how to configure, and the reference materials that we make available after you log into our Central Indiana user group Those reference materials will give the in-depth version of what it takes to be able to get those visualizations up and running. Okay, so what we've done is I've got some visualizations, and since we had a problem, probably it was an ID10T error on my part with the presentation of my screen, we're going to continue through with the slides and then maybe open it up for questions and comments, and then I'll try to open these reports up live and be able to show you a little bit more in detail what's happening there. So what we have here is a report for we have an offsite warehouse for chilled storage in Lebanon. And we make a lot of medicine for Eli Lilly, a lot of medicine for Elanco, and we're just a bulk manufacturer. So we make the medicine and somebody else puts it into tablets or capsules or syringes. But we're going to ship off, we're shipping large, cubic yard totes of dried white powder or 330-gallon IBCs of concentrated medicinal solutions. And so our storage is a constraint, obviously. No one wants to have too much storage, or that's a waste of money. But when business is good, we find that we don't have enough storage. And so what we do is, with this report, is we're evaluating the use of the leased storage that we have in Lebanon. We want to know which products are where, how much of that product is there, and how long has it been there. And then we know by batch, obviously our SAP system is getting everything taken care of in terms of the actual business data. But what's happening here is our warehouse operators, our quality assurance representatives, we give them this dashboard so that they can see as the materials being produced, how many batches are available for shipment, and then later on, we'll see another report with the shipping schedule. And so right here, what we're doing is we're evaluating the usage of the space that we're leasing. We are leasing different volumes of square footage over time based on waves of customer orders. And so we're really trying to titrate the value of the dollar spent on storage. And so this is a visualization of storage utilization. I didn't make screenshots of all of these visualizations. So when we get through the presentation, I'll try to come back and show you some of those others. So, and then this is for the same report. This is another view. So you've got a visual representation by color and size of rectangle that tells you for all of the storage that's in there in those 924 spaces, it's broken down by these products. If I want to drill down into the details, I give myself the ability to do that. Otherwise, I'm really just looking at the visualization here and comparing that used space to available space. And then we also have some space that isn't liquid, it's not turning over. And if there's any rejected material, here I am showing my dirty laundry, then I know what product, what batch, when it's due in and out, and if it's rejected, then I've got a different path. It's not going to the customer, it's going to our incinerator. Next slide. Okay, so this is a different report, and I apologize that I did not fix the header on this slide. So this is what this is we have a huge list of Power BI, Power App projects within Evonik globally. So of those projects, we are tracking which ones are started, which ones are operational, and already some are being retired and replaced with newer versions. As we get better at using the tool, our ability to transform the data and capture insights is also improving. And so that's the real excitement of the tool. And what I wanted to show here on this particular slide is right now we have a total of 53 corporate BI solutions that are active. And we've got, from a digital business perspective. We've categorized them in certain ways. These definitions, I'm sorry, probably won't make much sense to you, but within your own organization, you can label which types of applications are useful to which population, and you can label, instead of which populations, you can label it in terms of is the data sensitive or not? Is it public? Is it internal? Is it confidential? Is it strictly confidential? And then with these classifications, you can quickly get to a strategy with respect to how to publish certain dashboards. So if I have something that's strictly confidential and it's vice president and above, what I do is I create either a new Microsoft team, or within an existing team, a new channel that I can restrict access to, and then I will publish my dashboard to that channel. So a little bit of strategy going on there. So if you have a project portfolio, which is what this is, I can track who's doing what where, which part of the organization they're in, and what their use case is. And in this particular table, you don't get the detailed description, you just get a title. And what's also neat is
Tom,
sure, go ahead.
just a time check. We've got about 20 minutes, so I don't know whether you want to skip through some of these or not.
Okay.
So I'll let you manage
Thank
the
you,
time.
Roy.
Okay.
Thank you, Roy. So does this particular, so I'm ready to move on. Does this particular visualization stimulate any questions from the attendees? Go back one, Roy.
Okay.
Okay, if no questions, I'll go ahead and move on. Sorry, Roy. So here's another one. Now, so the previous slide, you saw a Power BI visualization that was created by someone who, in our introductions, we probably would have said it was a 4 or a 5. What I'm showing you here is someone who was a 2, basically got into the tool and said, I have data. There's too much in Excel for me to make any kind of sense or quick conclusions. So I'm going to get in there and I'm going to start figuring out how BI can help me visualize certain things. And so this is our PassX PassX is a pharmaceutical manufacturing execution system. And this was an internal report for the implementation team who was building electronic batch records. And what they wanted to know was by material in this column, they had a plan as to stage-wise when each particular process electronic batch record was going to be created. They know the steps that had to be taken, and they know the amount of time that it takes for various steps to be done. And so this was a great way to communicate across the plant site, who was excited that we're getting a manufacturing execution system, but not happy with the slow speed at which a GMP validated IT solution can be deployed. So because it takes months and years to finish that deployment, the person who was in charge of all of the electronic batch record design efforts put this dashboard out there. And so anybody in the plant that ran particular processes that wanted to know where they were in queue, they could come in here and find out and get a little dashboard that kind of showed how far along that particular process electronic batch record is and where it stands with respect to going live. So this visualization was created by a non-IT person who worked for me that used to be a chemical operator, and I brought him onto the manufacturing execution system project, trained him on how to create the electronic batch records, and literally within hours of introducing him to Power BI, he pushed this out onto our team site. Next slide. So same project, different user. So in these visualizations, this is our PassX Manufacturing Execution Center system, and the Center of Excellence is managed by a couple of IT people. One of the IT people was the Purdue summer intern that we used to do the analysis for us, and part of that analysis was the decision between Tableau and Power BI. So she took that, ran with it. then she quickly became a power user in Power BI, and this is one of the visualizations that she created. Now, what's going on here is pretty neat. It's a multi-page report, and you can see all the details are at the bottom. There's intermediate level of information being transmitted in the middle, and then there's super high roll-up capabilities occurring at the top. Since we're not live in the tool, what's happening, if I were in the tool live, I would go to these different pages and I would get different views of the data, but all of this at the top in terms of my interactions to be able to do the drill down capabilities, every one of these is exactly the same. So from in terms of, professional development of the visualization and, what is proper use of white space and these types of questions, I thought she did a fantastic job putting these together for us. Next slide. Okay. So New Year's, I think based on the introductions, we don't have very many new users. If you are a new user, feel free to contact myself or your own IT people. If you're a Microsoft licensed company, go to your own IT people, but come to me if you're struggling with use cases like why, okay, if it's easy to do and it's cheap to use, why would I do this? And so one of the things I like to do is share some of our use cases with people, and then it helps them understand the value of the tool. And also I can share with them exactly how much effort, how long did it take to get this? Was it worth it? And what you'll find is usually the answer is yes, it was worth it. So we have also been able to create our own video here. And so what happened is some of those videos that you can see on YouTube are create a visualization in an hour. Roy has been able to go in and basically create his own video of the same flavor. And so we have this built into the presentation here. But one last thing here on some useful YouTube links. So because I bloviated and took too long, we will share the presentation with the group, and I recommend you check out those links. And now, what I think we could do, Roy, do you have the link to our Central Indiana user group?
No, why don't you bring out, stop sharing if you can bring it up.
Okay, well, since we had that problem,
try it again if you can.
We'll try again. Otherwise, I'll send it to you. Actually, what'll be great is I'm going to chat it out to everyone, because this is what we want everyone to do. So the link I just put in the chat is to the Microsoft Power BI user group platform. And so there's more than just Power BI. So when you get there, don't be surprised if you see a lot of information about Power Apps, Power Automate, and things of this nature. It's a natural progression to, I think, eventually absorb a lot of those tools. They're very inexpensive and high value in terms of extracting, transforming, and loading data. All right, so I am going to click the share button again.
There you go.
Okay, so I've got a little bit of a awkward aspect ratio here, but it gets more of the page in. So what we've done is we've created the Central Indiana Power Platform Group. The idea is that the people on this call and the people in the Wabash Heartland Industrial Network area, what we want to be able to do is attract them to this site. If they want to know, how do I get started? We want to help them get started. If they want to know, how do I get better? We want to help them get better. If they want to know, where are the best links to the best reference materials so that I can get from being a novice to eventually being a power user? If I have the time, if I have the ability or the interest can be more powerful than ability in some cases. Our job is to make the training materials and the reference materials easily available to everyone, so that you can get started. And then if you run into an obstacle, we have a discussion group here. So what I encourage you to do is go to the site, sign up. Once you sign up, you get an option as to whether you want your information to be private or public. What that means is either we can see your email address or we can't. It's that simple. If you make it public, what we will do is Roy and I will get your email address. I will share it with Roy, and we will make that email so that you can access our library. So one of the things we gave feedback to Microsoft on is we'd like to be able to store files here within our user group. The old user group system used to allow us to do that. They took that away. And so what we think is for those people in particular, these people who are just trying to get started, there are too many documents that need to be shared with them quickly so that they can either get through training or know that they have the DAX user manual readily available for a Control F so that they can get their format straight and move on with a good visualization. And so what we will do here is ask you to join if you're interested. And then once you share your email address with us, then we'll give you access to the library. And then within that library, we've got basically all of the current reference documentations that Microsoft has made available via PDF. And then also we share multiple links, like Bob was talking about earlier. Within this user group platform, what you'll find is we can show you that there are multiple links within the Power BI community. So I clicked over here on a new screen. So not only do you have the ability to post your questions globally by topic, but also there are some features within the Microsoft website that we can quickly orient you to in order to be able to get to some of the most powerful sources of information that basically keep you going irrespective of your level of proficiency.
Okay, Tom, I think we only got about 5 more minutes, so I'd like to kind of discuss and maybe, I don't know, some of the experience used like Bob and people from Wabash. So how do you see us going forward? How often should we have this type of a meeting? So Bob, maybe I ask you first. What is your recommendation? Yeah. Bob,
Sorry, Roy, I was trying to get it off mute there. I'm thinking maybe quarterly. Much beyond that, I think it gets a little hard to stay on top of, but that would be my thought. I don't know, I guess it could be every other month, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a monthly kind of thing.
Sure. How about maybe someone from Brown Ability, Stephen, or someone? What's your thoughts?
I would stay with the quarterly for right now.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have a different opinion? Okay, I think that sounds good. One of the things I'd like, for the people on the call, especially, I think Tom's did a great job here putting together this first presentation and some of these use cases. So for future meetings, if you would like to be one of the guest presenters to kind of share use cases and your knowledge, I think it will just email me so that I can get you on the agenda. Thomas, I think you were one of the power users also. What's your thoughts about frequency of this type of meeting and how we should move forward?
I think quarterly probably works. A couple years ago, we did a really intense training session for 40 people, and hoping that maybe a month or two later, people would give us feedback on, what additional stuff they needed and stuff like that. And generally, it takes 2 to 3 months for somebody to get back because they got to try it themselves and such. So yeah, I'd go quarterly.
Okay, good.
So you have a great perspective. Do you have any suggestions of maybe some of the things that we could start building in to make sure that this is a good use of people's time? because what we thought would maybe a next step would be is to generate a basically a roadmap of what we hope to be able to achieve with this group. And then part of that would include, feedback from people. And I think you're in an excellent position to help us along very quickly with what that roadmap could look like.
My most recent requested, I've done several training sessions for different groups and stuff at Wabash National, and what I found is bridging the gap between IT and the business is probably the most difficult one, because in our case, almost all the data that we use initially has some sort of a sourcing out of an IT system that we can't easily grab ourselves. We do some SharePoint stuff and some SharePoint lists and things, but for the most part, most everybody wants data that comes directly out of our ERP systems. And in order to do those, do those ETLs and things like that, you have to have a way of working with the IT group. And the last presentation I think I did on training was based on what do you need to do to collect information to ask what you want to get, and how do you interface with them, and then how do you sit back and wait for that data to come down the road sometime, and what do you do in the meantime so that you can prepare for that. We use SQL Server for a lot of our data sourcing. We have a data hub that we use, and all of our data gets actually published to a bunch of apps. We have basically 10 different apps for the company based on organizational. We have an executive app, and we have a bunch of other different apps. So when we get done with a report, me or somebody else, when we publish it to the app, they can get it on their phone immediately, or any device in the cloud that they need to have access. So we are a premium user. We use pretty much all the functionality that Power BI has.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost, go ahead. I was going to say, if someone has to drop off at 4:30, I'll keep the line open if you want to stay on and chat. But I think I'll go ahead, since you had a lot of links in that presentation, Tom, I'll email the PowerPoint out to everyone so that you can click on those links and view those videos and papers. So, but go ahead, Tom, you want to wrap up?
Yeah. One last, I didn't spend much time on what I hope to be able to achieve. So what we want to do is, my goal wasn't necessarily to show what I've done, but to offer to be able to use this user group website to collect your feedback so that we could be working on helping you solve that next problem. So for example, one of the things I want to look at within our company, we've got some real experts. I'm not one of them at Power BI. And only recently have we started using the SAP connector. And so maybe there are some best practices that I can share, at least from our perspective, as to how to negotiate with, IT security concerns being paramount, as to what we might be able to do to simplify the business case for getting these SAP connectors in place.
The IT guys always told me you need to learn German if you want to get into SAP. And because all their field names are in German and everything like that. And actually, that's one of the hardest things that we've had to deal with. We don't use a connector, but we do the ETLs and stuff like that and drag the data out. But you really to know what you want and how to get it and stuff like that. It's actually, German as a second language is a good thing for SAP.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Steve? Do you have any closing comments?
No, I'm real happy with the content, things that we went through. I apologize when Mike got opened up there for a minute. I think that we want this to be a dynamic group and a group that folks can rely on as they go through and learn the different components and try to start using Power BI. We're going to be working in the near future. We're starting to have our students, so learn Power BI and become part of the user group for Power BI as well. So as you hire Purdue students that have worked for DeSemi or Global Supply Chain, they all will have a good feel for Power BI and applications and integration as well.
Okay, all right, well, thanks. Well, we're exhausted our hour and a half. I've been very pleased with the turnout today and interest, and I think the quarterly cycle is probably the right one we'll start with. And like I said, I'll send out the PowerPoint. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions or comments, feedback, please send them to me, good or bad, and we'll try to look for ways to improve the content in the future. But I'd really like to thank Tom for his expertise and his knowledge, and thank everybody for the attendance. So
Thanks, guys.